I'm Robert Miller, born in Morganton, North Carolina, August 8th, 1931. I grew up in the Oak Hill area of Morganton, North Carolina. I went to Oak Hill School, local school. Then after service, I went to Appalachian State University and got a bachelor's degree plus a master's degree in education. I was drafted in the Army on December the 2nd, 1952. I took my basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina on Tank Hill. 8 weeks of basic training, 8 weeks of infantry training. After basic training, I was sent to Fort Lewis, Washington to be shipped out overseas on the U.S. Marine Lennox, which is a troop ship, to Yokohama, Japan. We stayed there for about a week. Then we shipped out to Korea, to the 17th Infantry Regiment headquarters, and I stayed there for about a week before being assigned to the 17th Infantry Regiment. My ship arrived in Yokohama, Japan on May 13th, 1953. Arrived in Korea May 19th and went to 7th Infantry Division headquarters. From there, I was assigned to the 17th Infantry Regiment, Company A of 17th. My company was on Hill 200. I arrived there May the 26th and joined the Able Company. Was Company A, 1st Platoon, and 1st Squad under the leadership of Charlie Brooks. I was assigned as a rifleman in the was assigned to the rifle platoon in the 1st Platoon, 1st Squad. Charlie Brooks was my squad leader. On Hill 200, it was made up of bunkers, some trenches leading from one to the other. Most of the time daytime we'd be cleaning weapons, but of course at night everybody's on alert and full guard duty. I was on 200 about the second night. Squad leader told me, said, you are going to go out on patrol tonight. Said, I don't want you to be nervous. I want you to do what I tell you to do. Said, and just be quiet. So we went out, come back in about, maybe a half hour before daylight the next morning. We just set up a listening post. It was go out there and sit and listen. And I can remember today that we could look off in a distance with overhead lights shining back in front of us. We could see the Chinese or the North Koreans, a group of walking, and their hats looked like they had a flashlight on them because they shined. And we just sat there and watched them. Reported they were going which direction they were going, and that's about all the activity we had on that patrol. The group of Chinese that we saw seemed like they had lights on their head. At that time, there was no firing going on, no mortar rounds coming in or anything like that. And we observed them in a valley off in the distance from us. And they were just walking along. Probably they were on patrol too, but we could, it was unusual. And that was my first experience on patrol. Okay, on this patrol, it's my first one. To be honest with you, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But Charlie Brooks, he had been experienced. He had been on the April Battle of Port Chop, and he said, just do what I tell you. And I said, I'll assure you, I'll get you out of there alive. After Hill 200, we were sent back in reserve for a rest and take some showers and get some clean clothes. And while we were there, we took training for the raid on what's called a rat nest. But something happened, and that part was canceled right then. And then about maybe a week later, that's when we were sent on Pork Chop Hill. Well, on Hill 200, I remember very much that Lieutenant Shea, he worked with the guys. He was a leader. He would show you what to do, tell you what to do. Then he would let you do it. And then he would come by and talk to you, did a good job, but he was a very outstanding officer. On about the 1st of July, I was assigned to go up onto Pork Chop Hill. We were sent by motor trucks for a good distance. We started getting incoming rounds. They had us to unload and go over next to the side of the mountain. So the rounds would go over top of us. From there, we walked the rest of the way across the mud and patties. And it had been starting to rain some then. It was very muddy, and we walked up, I know, a long trail to get up on Pork Chop Hill. Finally, we got up there in the trenches. It was open trenches for a ways back through the company headquarters, and then we were assigned our area, and everybody was assigned their firing spots, areas, and so then we began to settle down and go to work. Shortly after being on Pork Chop, we were sent one night out on patrol, again to go out and set up a listening post to see what was going on. During the middle of the night, one of the guys on the patrol with us, he had his safety off, and he pulled the trigger, wham! Luckily no one was killed. I was a radio man at that time. I got a call back from Lieutenant Shea. He wanted to know who it was. And I told him, I kind of hesitated. And he said, "Now, come on." I said, "I'll give you a direct order. I want to know who it was, and I want him to report to me when you get back off patrol." While on patrol, I said about the soldier who fired his rifle. We went to sleep, as nervous as I was, I reckon. Anyway, morning came. Normally they would bring us back in before daylight, but they kept us out there, and we kept wanting to come back in, and they said, "Nope, you stay out there, stay out there." And it's been 8:30 or 9 o'clock before they finally had us come back in one at a time, because they felt like the enemy may be setting up an ambush out there to ambush us. We come back in as a group. So, but we all made it back. And I don't know what happened to the soldier that fired his rifle, but I feel sorry for him. Yeah, I was while on patrol, I was a radio man, and I was given a radio, given about a 10-minute instructions on how to use it, and what my code number was. I think I was Charlie 1, I believe it was, and so anyway, we could communicate back and forth, and they would, and every now and then they'd report in if everything was all right. So Dale Kane, he was the one who hooked me up on the radio, taught me how to use it. Yeah. During the daytime, we'd be assigned a group of South Korean civilians to come in there and work and do whatever work we needed to be done. At this time, Lieutenant Shea assigned me to about 6 South Korean men, and they were digging the ditch, the trench, deeper, so they could eventually cover it up. So he tried to watch them, said, "Don't let them get up over the bank, do any waving, anything like that. Or if they pick up anything, don't let them put it in their pockets, because you might be fighting them tonight." During the days leading up to the July the 6th battle, we'd be cleaning weapons, taking care of fortifications, of our fortifications, and working like that. But particularly on the night of July the 6th, Charlie Brooks told me that I need to get some early sleep, because I'd be assigned to late night guard duty, and he wanted me to have plenty of sleep. So I went to bed somewhere around sleep in a sleeping bunker, somewhere around 8 o'clock. And then that night, I believe a little after 10 o'clock, I mean, it seemed like all hell broke loose. I mean, I heard incoming rounds coming in, but nothing like that. The ground shook and everything else, and I said, there's something going on. So I got out of there, went down to the squad area, and my squad leader, Charlie Brooks, told me, said, where's your rifle? I said, I left it in the sleeping bunker. He said, go get it, because we need it. We're under attack. But I went down to get my rifle. The sleeping bunker was located next to a Wash Fork in the underground tunnels, and I was fired upon by a Chinese or a North Korean. Bam, I got my rifle right quick, and I headed back into the squad area. After I got my rifle and headed back to the squad area, well, the squad, part of them has already been hit, and we had moved on down the underground trench to the main firing area where we could look out with Charlie Brooks. I hate to say it, but I had to walk on dead bodies with my own men. We finally got down there, and so we were taking care of our own area, and on the other side of our area we know the Chinese because we could hear them talking. If they got too loud, we'd lob a hand grenade around the corner and quieten them down, and so we were there until the late at night, and we'll be firing out there at the Chinese or North Korean, whichever one they were. But anyway, it was there, so we I hate to say it, but I had to walk on dead bodies with my own men. We finally got down there, and so we were taking care of our own area, and on the other side of our area we know the Chinese because we could hear them talking. If they got too loud, we'd lob a hand grenade around the corner and quieten them down, and so we were there until the late at night, and we'll be firing out there at the Chinese or North Korean, whichever one they were. But anyway, it was there, so we the bodies I had to walk on was members of my own squad. I can't recall their names right now, but it for a distance of about 50 feet to get from the point where I was at to get to the firing range and the firing bunker. It was tough, but we had to do it.
The day before?
The day before we was attacked on Pork Chop on July the 6th. The Chinese, they come with big loudspeakers, a welcome the Able Company to Pork Chop Hill. They told us that they were going to take Pork Chop Hill if they had to wade in blood to do it. So they sent two divisions on Able Company, and I don't think it was only about maybe 2 platoons of Able Company was on Pork Chop Hill. Yeah. I was in the firing bunker, and the Chinese was come up the hill, and they could run faster up that hill across barbed wire, and faster than you could even think about even shooting, bam, 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 bam. And Charlie Brooks had a Browning automatic, and he fired it till we run out of ammo. I think I maybe had one clip left, and it was getting about close to 2 o'clock in the morning when I got hit. I'm sure it was either a rifle grenade or a hand grenade. As I remember, there was 6 of us in the bunker. A round come in, go whamp. Everybody looked around, everybody looked at me. And Paul Sanchez, he's out of California. He grabbed me and set me down. And it had blowed my right leg off, blow the knee completely off. The left leg was shattered. From that point, it took me back out into the trench set me down, and Paul Sanchez, he tied tourniquets on both of my legs, and to stop the bleeding, and then we stayed there for probably maybe around 2 something, no 10 at the time 2 something. Then it stayed there to just before daylight. We was cut off. We couldn't get forward. We couldn't go either way. Enemy on one side and was cut off on the other. We were running low of ammunition. So we talked together, and I still conscious, knowing what was going on. And Charlie Brooks, he asked us, said, what do you think about what was able to go out to firing range and make it around to the right and go down to the try to find a company headquarters to get some help back for me, and so they get some more ammunition. So I told him to go ahead because I was no good like I was. So Charlie Brooks, he checked the bandage on my legs, said there was no bleeding going on, and I said, well, my rifle's jammed. How about leaving me what's left of a case of hand grenades? I said, I'll take care of myself here till you get back to me. So at that time, they left, and I stayed there from that night. That was on July the 7th, all day long, all night long the next night. At about 10 o'clock on July the 8th in the morning, before they come in to pick me up. Okay, just before daylight on July the 7th, a decision was made that they were going, those that were able, to go out the firing bunker and go down to the headquarters to get someone to come back and pick me up. I stayed there. I was by myself. Nobody, but just me and dead soldiers around me. Occasionally, I could hear a Chinese or North Korean talking down in the trench in front of me. I had a case of grenades, about half a case anyway. Anyway, I'd pull a pin out of one, I'd throw it down and bounce it off the wall back down the trench the other way, and it exploded, bam. I didn't hear no more out of him. Then one time, a couple of Chinese came in the bunker through the window, was in there yak yak yak. So I just pulled a pin on one, tossed it over the sandbags in there, boom. I heard no more out of them. So anyway, I stayed there, and sometime during the next night, now that was just it in the morning part. The next night, sometime during the night, Angelo Palermo, who had been out on a patrol, he came in and talked to me a few minutes. They said he was really teed off because there's nobody there with me. And he said, well, I made my way through. He said, I'm going to go back and get a medic for you. And he went back to get a medic. And like I said, that was sometime on July the 7th. Yeah, during this time I was there by myself. I had no food, no water. I think the last water I got was on July the 6th. And that would have been that night when I had my meal. And I had no food, and we had no ammunition. My rifle was, it was jammed. Okay, while I was in the tunnel there by myself, I had no water. I was getting very thirsty. Occasionally I could feel a drop of water coming through the overhead on it, and I'd catch it, raise my head back, and I'd catch a drop in my mouth. I said, well, I know it's not good, it's not healthy, sanitary, but I had to have something in my mouth. My tongue was getting thick, and anyway, it was, I had no, like I said, no food or water from July the 6th until the morning of July the 8th. Okay, occasionally while I was there on the ground, I get an incoming rifle, incoming hand grenades coming in my way, go bam, and sometimes I think they're more concussion. grenades, and there were fragmentation grenades. And then it was just me and myself and the good Lord. On the morning of July the 8th, I was sitting there, every now and then tossing a grenade down around the bend towards the Chinese. All at one old whomp, a flamethrower went off of my back, and I hollered, "What the hell is going on? Cut that damn thing off." So, heard one of them say, "Oh, he's one of us, he's all right." So they came in there. I don't know what outfit it was, but they had a stretcher. They got me on it, and off down the trenches we went. I went off down by the company. I remember going to the company headquarters bunker, and down in the trenches as a company was coming up on one side of the trench. They were carrying me down on the other, and every now and then it would stop. And when they stopped, here was the guys right in front of me there, and I said, "Anybody got a drink of water? I could sure use one." Some guy, he handed me his canteen. I opened it up, took me a couple swallows, put the lid on it, handed it back to him. He said, "You need it worse than I do." So I kept it, thanked him, and to this day, I wish I knew who he was. As they carried me down through the trenches, I could see the troops coming up through, another company coming up on Port Chop Hill for reinforcement. When we got down to the bottom of the Port Chop Hill, the landing area, we had to wait there for a while. The Army personnel carrier could come in there, and they put me inside, and they stacked them up on left and right of it inside and on the stretchers. And they carried us out because we're getting incoming rounds all the time. Even while the personnel carrier was taking me back as far as they could, then they put me out on the Jeep, the stretchers, well, the Jeep, and carried me back then they put me on a helicopter on the outside of it. And I can remember being there, and inside of it looked like a glass bubble or plexiglass, and hooked up with IVs and everything. And I look up the pilot up overhead. He'd look down and give me the okay, and I'd look out the computer and tell me, "Speed it up and let's go." And so they took me on down to the Daegu Army Hospital, and that's where they done the patching me up the best they could to get ready to ship me out to Japan, to the Army Hospital in Osaka, Japan. What you're seeing here is results of shrapnel wounds I received on Port Chop Hill. You can see here the scars here. This ankle was busted up so bad they used screws to put it in to hold it together so it could heal back. And this over here is where it blowed out my leg off here. And this is one of the more modern day prosthesis. I'm able to snow ski with this one, and so it's one of the advanced ones too. Okay, I can walk better with my left with a prosthesis than I can this one. This ankle here that's all the movement I got in it, just barely moves. And with this in here, it has flexible ankle, and it has split toes in it. And it walks more natural with this one I do with this one. I stayed in the Army Hospital in Osaka, Japan, until the first part of September. I don't know what date it was. Anyway, there I went through numerous operations, skin grafts and different things on my leg. Like I said, they put screws in it to hold it together to try to get it to heal together. And anyway, I was put back in a stretcher and put on a Air Force transportation, a medical evac plane back to the States, and wound up in Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, D.C. in September. I stayed there until the following June, until I was released out of the hospital with a medical retirement. In closing, I'd like to thank Paul Sanchez out in Fremont, California. He was the one who tied a tourniquet on my leg. Both of them. He did a good job because I didn't bleed to death. Doctors tell me today, different ones I talked to, won't know how I survived that long without being bleed to death. So I should have bled to death within 3 minutes after I was wounded. But I guess the good Lord was looking over me for a good cause down the road.